Hello, everybody. Welcome. We are live today. Just a reminder, it's 4:25:17, and it is 12 o'clock noon. So if you're rewatching this later, just remember that the providers are not here to answer your questions, but I will be checking the Facebook and following up with you regarding any questions submitted after the fact. So I'm here today with Andy, an exercise physiologist here at GHP, and also Christine, one of our full-time dietitians. So you guys did awesome in submitting some material for us to review, so I think we're just going to hop right into that. But I want to remind you guys to stay active, stay involved, post your comments, let us know that you're here. The more interaction we get from you guys, the better it goes for us. So we'll just hop right in. I'll hand over the floor to you guys. All right, thanks.
Thanks, Jesse.
All right, first question was from Doreen. Question is will ice cream ever be allowed? If not, what can be used to cure the desire to want it? And are grapes allowed at 6 weeks post-op? No, we prefer that we don't add in like ice cream and things of that sort, ice cream bars, that sort of thing. But they do have a new product that is now available through grocery stores, Meijer's, Family Fare, that sort of thing. It's called Halo Top, and the calories range anywhere from like 240 to 260 calories for 26 grams of protein. They have all kinds of different flavors. It is in a 2-pint container. The serving size is a half a cup. So watch the serving size. And then, yes, grapes are allowed at 6 weeks. And if you haven't tried them frozen, I would recommend trying them frozen. That even makes a nice sweet dessert sort of fun treat for the summer. The one thing I do want to mention, though, is if ice cream and even the Halo Top tends to be a trigger food, we want to stay away from anything that triggers us into wanting more or is going to become problematic in the future. So make sure that if it does tend to be one where once you eat it, you feel like you can't stop eating it, I would recommend that you stay away from all of those sweet treats for now. Maybe forever. It depends on each particular person.
The second part of Doreen's question was, she says, exercise is an important part of the journey, but how do you actually get rid of the flabby stomach and arms? And I appreciate this question because it's one that I probably field with most folks. The question is that skin. You know, as that body fat shrinks, the question is what's that skin going to do? You know, it's going to shrink with it. And it's a difficult question. It's one that probably nobody can really answer because there's so many different variables. My encouragement is always this, and that is to focus on the things that you can do to help keep your skin healthy. And I put a lot of emphasis on the nutrition piece. I think protein is very important in that. Getting your fluids in, staying hydrated, and getting your vitamins in. I think those three things are key. Exercise definitely contributes. It promotes circulation and blood flow and helps that skin stay healthy. And in certain areas of the body, exercise can help manipulate the muscle, and it helps to kind of take up some of that, or give the skin more of a firm foundation. The stomach region is a tough region because those abdominal muscles are really flat. So you can work them, but they don't really change the dynamics of that area a lot. So, you know, core exercises are definitely important in keeping your spine stable and supporting your back and that. But I wouldn't necessarily waste tons of time on like half an hour or so of abdominal exercise. I don't think that's going to change that area that dramatically. And while there's lots of exercise routines and products out there in the marketplace, you know, I wouldn't waste a lot of money on them. So it's good to keep the abdominal wall strong, but as far as toning goes, it's a difficult area. And exercise, I would say, probably doesn't play as great a role as what we'd like it to, unfortunately. So
We do have a couple of questions here. One is from Teresa. Half a cup of Halo Top is 60 calories and 6 grams of protein. The 240 is for the whole pint. That is correct. And they range anywhere from like 240 to 260 last time I looked. And I think the protein ranges anywhere from like 24 to 26.
I think I actually saw there's a few flavors that are higher in calories. I think I saw up to 320. Same amount of protein, but higher in general calories too. So I'm gonna watch that. It is good. It is good. I was
agree.
surprised
I
that it
thought so
was,
too.
you know, let's be honest, trying to find something that gives you that protein that really tastes good. I was kind of skeptical that it would actually taste like ice cream, but
Mhm.
it's actually really pretty good. So,
There's some more questions here, but I don't have my glasses on all.
I
So,
know mine
Andy,
too. So I'm going to
leaving
lean in
Andy.
here and see if I can. So, okay. So Connie indicated arthritis in the lower back. So Connie, I'm not sure what you're asking there. If you're thinking about activities or that are best for arthritis in the lower back, that's something I can address. If you want to type in with a little bit more specific question, that would be great.
Started the Whole30 program and struggling with protein intake.
Now, what's your thoughts on this type of eating? That's from Shannon. I'm not familiar with the Whole30 program.
I am not either. I'm not familiar also with the Whole30 program. I'm not sure is there a certain gram that they say that you have to stay within? Specifically, anything with the carbs, fat, that sort of thing.
Okay. Well, while we're maybe waiting for that reply, Connie indicated, what exercises can I do? So arthritis in the lower back is a challenge. I think probably 70% of Americans struggle with some sort of lower back concerns. I think one of the main things that you can do is watch posture throughout the day, especially during a weight loss journey. It's not uncommon for posture to change as your body changes. And because we sit a lot, and we're oftentimes in front of a computer or on a tablet, our shoulders tend to go forward. We arch that lower back. So one of the best things you can do is really focus on good posture throughout the day. And really, honestly, I'm going to say try and stand as much as you can. You want to keep the muscles engaged, and that helps to keep the spine lubricated, which can help alleviate some of that. With arthritis, the key is movement. Not hard, impactful movement, but just movement throughout the day. And then I would also say, stretching at night before you go to bed, and well, morning too, but oftentimes people experience a lot of stiffness in the early morning, and I found a lot of benefit in engaging in some light stretching before you go to bed, and that will oftentimes help you sleep better and help you get up and not be quite so stiff in the morning. But Connie, I would welcome if you would like, you can email me and I can send you some very specific exercises, maybe more appropriate to that. So I'd be happy to do that. You want to send that, but I feel for you. I have arthritis in my lower spine too, so I know what you're saying.
Looks like Laura's asking you to demonstrate some exercises for the chicken wings.
For the chicken.
Is that leg or arms?
That's arms, I think.
Okay.
I think that's arms. Although I've heard about chicken legs.
Yeah.
A lot of guys suffer with, by the way. But yeah, actually, that's one of the questions that we had. Actually, somebody wrote in on was what exercises can I do for working or toning the underarms? So yeah, we can definitely address that. We can take a look at that right now. So there's two main things with that. When we talk about toning, I referenced a little bit earlier about keeping your skin healthy. When it comes to the exercise, there's a couple goals that you want to keep in mind. One is that with the arms, you want to make sure you're working both the front and the back of the arms. A lot of times, because I think when we're talking about chicken wings, people are talking about the lower part here, and so we think we want to work there, which we do, but you want to work the upper part too, because the skin is a sleeve, right? Just like my shirt, and you want to work both sides to really help to kind of create a more firm foundation for that skin. So you want to work the front and the back, and the second key is making sure you're using a weight that is challenging. That weight should be such that if you're performing that exercise, let's say a bicep curl, that weight that you're using, it should cause you to fatigue somewhere around that 10th, 11th, 12th repetition, okay? So if you can do it 15 times, if you can lift it 15 times, 15 repetitions, you get to that 15, 20, you're like, oh, that wasn't that bad. You need to push it. You need to increase that weight a little bit because those muscles will only improve when you ask them to improve and you challenge them a little bit. There's two exercises that I have a tendency to go to and lean towards, of which Christine said she would model for us. So, so you want to do that?
Sure.
Okay, so we're going to move a little bit here. Christine, come back here for me. Position so you can see it. So the two exercises, bicep curl. So I'll give you these. I'm going to have Christine face that way so we can watch her form. So with this one, and this is one a lot of people are pretty familiar with, the key is keep your elbow right at your side. Sometimes we have a tendency to move that elbow out or move it back, right at the side. Keep your wrist in a lock position, And basically what she's going to do is just curl it up to about where you get a full contraction there, and then allow it to come down to just a slight extension. You don't want to straighten it all the way out, just a slight extension and back up. The key is to keep that elbow there. When we have a tendency to get tired, we have a tendency to move that. That puts extra stress on your shoulder. We don't want that. So just nice and slow, perfect, just like that. So that's going to focus on the front part, the bicep, which again, we want to. And again, she should be using a weight that makes it tough for her to do this 8 to 12 times. Okay, so there will be some experimentation with that. So that's the front part, the bicep curl. Next one I'm going to have her do is lay down on this bench behind us. And I'm going to have what she's going to do is what we call it's a tricep extension, overhead extension. So the nickname for this one is skull breaker. So don't, because you have a tendency, well, you don't want to hit yourself in the forehead, so we don't want to do that. So I'm going to be pushing straight up towards the ceiling, just like that. So her elbows right now are pointed straight up towards the ceiling, if you can see that. And that's the key, is to keep this elbow straight up towards the ceiling. Elbows bent at a 90 degree, so the weight is just to the side of her forehead. Okay, that's why it's the nickname skull breaker or skull cruncher. So then she's going to take and extend those elbows up, her arms up, so it's almost straight towards the ceiling. Then she keeps those elbows there and just bends them again at a 90 degree, again, just above her forehead, and then presses back up. I like this one because it's a very neutral position for her shoulder. It doesn't put a lot of stress on the shoulder. Many of us have shoulder issues, rotator cuff issues, that sort of thing. So this is one of the more neutral ones for the shoulder, but it allows you to put a lot of emphasis on that tricep. And again, the goal is the same, is to use a weight that you can perform this exercise probably 8 to 12 times. You're going to be, we all would be weaker in this one. You're going to be stronger in the bicep curl, weaker on the tricep extension. So, good, perfect. Thank you, Christine.
You're welcome.
So there's many other ones you can do, but those are two I think that are very effective and they'd be a good use of your time. And then the other thing with that is consistency. 3 times a week is kind of a goal with that. So, good question.
Christine, it looks like Shannon Dennett, you're talking about her Whole30 diet.
Okay.
So she's cutting out dairy, soy, and sugar. So, she says she's seen some people experience weight loss on this. She knows that she's had surgery and they haven't. So she's wondering how to keep the protein up, even though she's cutting out so much.
Well, a lot of the items that you are cutting out would still would not really affect the protein intake, like the sugar, the gluten. Those really aren't high protein foods. So if you focus on maybe more of your meat group, your chicken, your fish, your turkey, pork, that sort of thing. And those you tend to get more bang for your buck anyways, meaning that for the amount of calories that they have, you can get a lot of protein really quickly without a lot of calorie load there. So I would focus more on the meat group than anything else.
Okay, and she does mention that she's struggling a little bit with the sugar cravings. Any suggestions for that?
For me, I think that's an all or nothing for most people that especially struggle with weight loss and trigger foods. There's 3 things you could do. Number 1 is determine if it is for sure a trigger food. If sugar tends to be one where if you eat it and every single time it kind of flips a switch in your head and I want more, I want more, I want more, then what I would recommend doing is maybe on a piece of paper do an inventory of things that you feel are safe and that you feel can trigger that. And then eliminate all the items that tend to trigger you. Maybe not forever, but certainly I'd say for at least 6 months or so, and then you can always go back and try it again. But for the vast majority of people, if they tend to be a trigger food, they're pretty much a trigger food forever. The other thing you could do is, for some people, they tend to be a little bit more sensitive to sugar substitutes. I just read an article this past weekend that indicated that sugar substitutes they're seeing that they're affecting the brain and the body in almost the same manner as what real sugar does. So personally, what I would recommend, especially since they don't really bring anything to the table nutritionally, is for you to try to avoid anything with sugar substitutes, meaning like sugar-free gum, you know, Crystal Light, the meal things like that. Those tend to be more problematic. But that doesn't mean then that you can go do items that contain sugar either. So pure natural water, that sort of thing would probably be the best case scenario. You could even put like little things in your water, like a piece of lemon, piece of lime, piece of orange. They have the infusers that you can put fruit in and kind of put it in your water to give it a little bit more flavor. So you could try going that route too.
I'm going to touch real quick. Diane wrote in, and I appreciate this. She asked, how many cycles of the 8 to 12 reps do you recommend? So yeah, I didn't cover that. So usually 2 to 3 sets. So with those 2 exercises, I would recommend 8 to 12 repetitions of the bicep curl, and then immediately flip and do the 8 to 12 repetitions of the tricep extension, and then repeat that 1 to 2 times. So you can go back and forth between those 2 exercises. Also, too, I think Diane had written in and asked about know the importance of toning, but not wanting to build. And that's a great question, too. I probably hear that a lot of people say, you know, I want to tone, but I don't want to bulk up. I'll tell you, it's extremely difficult to bulk up in the first place. It just takes a lot of effort, a lot of time, and which most of us don't really want to do. But extremely difficult when you're involved in a weight loss initiative, because in order for those muscles to physically grow bigger, to actually bulk up, they need something to grow from, and that would be calories, and that's what none of you are giving them. Like, you're all focused on weight management, weight loss, so you're restricting your caloric intake. So your body's not really getting the calories that they would need to bulk those muscles up. So when you engage in the exercise and you get in the appropriate protein, you're going to cause those muscles to become tighter, more taut, more firm, and be stronger and have more endurance, but without the bulk. And so really all the benefits that we're really seeking. So good question.
And even more difficult for women to really bulk up because we don't have as much testosterone, so it's even more difficult for women to get there.
Yeah. Yep. Okay.
Any more questions there? You want to get to?
Yeah, I apologize. I have my contacts out, so I can't read very well either.
Well, I know a few different people submitted beforehand, but they were just kind of struggling with that plateau. You know, maybe they're at a 3 or 4 week, they've been at the same weight for a while, or maybe they kind of lost track. Can you guys just address that a little bit, getting back on track, overcoming those plateaus?
Yeah, if you want to go first, or
Journaling,
okay.
journaling, and then journaling. I cannot emphasize it enough. If we don't know what's coming in, we're not going to know what we need to tweak. So the only way to determine that is by using like a online, maybe like a MyFitnessPal, or I don't even care if you do it by hand. That's totally fine with me as long as you kind of know what's coming in, calorie-wise and protein-wise. You can do carbs, you can do fat, you can do other items in addition to that, but more importantly, the calories and protein are absolutely critical. Once we get there, if you are like using, for example, MyFitnessPal, typically what I recommend is whatever calorie level that you set it at, that we look at around 25 to 30% of protein and around 40 to 45% carbs and 30% fat. So for the carbs, it's less than fat, less than protein, more than. So the first thing before you do anything is get into the journal, start journaling, and let's see where our baseline is, and then we can take each individual, individually, and figure out what exactly is going on and determine what needs to be tweaked from there.
Yeah, it's really not, and if you've met with me, you've probably heard me use this analogy before, but it's really not on like keeping track of a checking account.
No.
You know, it's keeping track of calories in and calories out. I think calories in is there's some great resources like the MyFitnessPal, and it's a good tool. Calories out, on the other hand, is a little bit maybe more challenging because we move more or less every single day. So I think on the activity side of things, there's a few key things. One, I really think activity monitors are helpful. I know they're trendy, and if there's anything, I'd rather buck a trend than go with a trend. But I think those activity monitors are helpful, whether it be Fitbit, the Garmin's, the Polars, just anything, or even a pedometer, just something to give you an idea of how much are you moving. I think that I think structured exercise, because your activity monitors don't always catch your structured exercise, like your strengthening exercises. So I think journaling that is important. I know a key for actually engaging in the exercise and just keeping it consistent is scheduling it. And I've probably shared this with every one of you before, but schedule it weekly. Every week, look at your week ahead, look at the opportunities that you have. Don't dwell on the opportunities that aren't there. Just focus on the opportunities that you have, and pencil it into your schedule. Type it in there, whatever it takes. But if it's in there, you're more likely for it to happen, because I think we can all agree that when life gets hectic, exercise is definitely the easiest thing to kind of shove off. So schedule it weekly. Give yourself credit for it, and what's not recorded by your activity tracker, write it down. Give yourself credit for it, and write that down. And then if you're doing that, if you're keeping track of your non-steps, your strengthening exercises, your other things, you're keeping track of those. You have an activity monitor, so you know how many steps you're taking. Then you have a much better sense of the outgoing, the expenditure, and then if you're keeping track of the income, utilizing the MyFitnessPal, something along those lines, then and then you can make adjustments. You can tweak those. My encouragement would be, don't make too many adjustments all at once, because you don't know what's working. So pick maybe one on either side, and then give it 2 to 3 or 4 weeks to see what comes from that. It's not fancy. It's not exciting. It's tedious. It's work. It is, but it's what's going to get the job done, and it's an effort that you're worth making. So.
And one thing that you have to remember too, and if you're using the MyFitnessPal, when you do put in your exercise, it's going to add additional calories and protein and carbs that you can eat. We don't want you to eat those back. So anything that you burn above and beyond with exercise should go for additional weight loss, not for additional calories in. So typically what I do is I'll wait until the end of the day after I put in all my food, and then put my exercise in at the very end of the day, and then complete the entry. Or they do have an exercise note section that you can go in and just keep track of it there in the note section, where it's not then going to affect your major goals and add additional calories in there.
Yeah, and if you are using an activity tracker, and if it's linked to MyFitnessPal, I unlinked mine. I don't have my activity tracker communicating to MyFitnessPal, because otherwise it'll update it throughout the day and it just throws me off. So I just don't have it there. So.
And then I did want to just remind everybody that so far you're doing great with tuning into this, but if you feel at all like you need to just shoot an email or call the office and get a hold of one of these guys, saying you've been plateauing for a little bit longer than you think, and you can't figure it out on your own, please call us, email us. That's what we're here for.
Absolutely. I don't think we can say that enough.
No, we're
call us,
available.
email us, and because this is not an easy journey. We know that, and we want to be there with you. It's much easier to go that road when you have support, and don't be hesitant. So we love hearing from our patients.
Yes, definitely.
So, this is fun if I wasn't on screen. Otherwise, it'd be a lot more fun.
We did have a lot of questions on shakes and protein powders and things like that, kind of determining what is the best one that you can have. What you're looking for is on the label, under the nutrition facts section, there's usually a list of ingredients. You're going to look at the first 3 ingredients listed on the label. What you're looking for is a whey protein isolate. You do not want to use a whey protein concentrate or a whey protein isolate concentrate blend. So you want to make sure within the first 3 ingredients you see the word isolate, no concentrate, no blends. A lot of people have been purchasing the Premier shakes. They tend to be a little bit cheaper. Those are an isolate concentrate blend. They say 30 grams of protein for 160 calories, but then when you kind of figure it out, there's only a 12-gram absorption rate with those particular products. So we do not recommend the Premier shakes. Core Power is good. We've got a brand new product that we started to use. It's called...
That was empty.
That
was correct.
It's called Powerful Yogurt. You would think that it is thicker. It's not thicker. It's got probably about the same consistency as like a skim milk. 160 calories for 20 grams of protein. We have them available here. Vanilla, maple, chocolate, and coconut are the three flavors that we carry here. They've been tried by a lot of the staff, and we like them. I think they're good. Core Power obviously is a really good one still, and then the Fairlife milk, available in the dairy section of any grocery store. Comes in white and chocolate. It's just regular milk, longer shelf life, so that's a good one. If you're talking about protein powders, definitely, again, first three ingredients, whey protein isolate, stay away from the concentrate, stay away from the blends.
Here's a question that I'm seeing. What is the normal range for a plateau? It's from Jamie, and then weeks, that is. Around 8 months post-op, and been at a plateau for a month.
At that point, that usually if it goes beyond 3 weeks, something needs to be tweaked. So what we recommend is people get in, do your food diary. Let's see where you're at. Typically, it's one of 3 reasons: you're not eating enough protein, you're not eating enough calories, or you're eating too much of everything. It tends to be the first 2, nutritionally. So as far as food goes, and you could speak on the exercise piece of it to kind of help push you past the plateau. But as far as food goes, we look at the calories, we look at the protein, and then tweak them depending on what needs to be tweaked.
Yeah, and I think with exercise too, it's kind of the same thing, taking inventory of where we're at. Sometimes there's not always necessarily room for more time, so we might look at the time that we do have, what we're using that for. The nice thing about as somebody continues along their journey in wellness and exercise is that your body's able to do more in a shorter period of time. So I think it's always helpful to kind of assess when we are engaged in exercise, asking ourselves, am I challenging myself? Not killing myself. You all know that I'm not going to advocate no pain, no gain. But I think the question should be asked is, okay, I'm doing this for myself, for exercise. Am I challenging myself? And if you're engaged in aerobic activity like walking or biking, a good rule of thumb that I would recommend is, I call it the talk test, which the talk test has been around for a long time. The old talk test was you should be able to, when you're exercising, you should be able to talk but not sing. But I don't know anybody that really tests that out. So I think a better talk test today is if you're exercising, and let's say you're walking, and you have your phone with you, and somebody calls you. You should be able to answer that phone. You should not be so out of breath that you can't talk. So it shouldn't be that high of an intensity. But when you answer it, they should know you're doing something. They should be like, what are you doing now? Oh, I'm just getting my exercise in. I'm walking. They should know you're doing something. If you answer it and they have no clue that you're like exercising, that you're doing anything, then you probably up that intensity just a little bit. So I think that's important. If somebody's not doing strengthening exercises, I'm going to put an emphasis on that too, especially in those latter stages of your weight loss journey, 6 months plus post. We're worried about muscle loss, and muscle loss can have an impact on metabolism. So, real quick, Mike Nitz chimed in and said this thing tastes like Yoo-hoo, like a Yoo-hoo.
Oh,
I think that's what he was referring to. He said it tastes like a Yoo-hoo. So there you go. There's your testimony. Not from me.
Yeah.
Someone asked if soy protein isolate's okay.
Yes, absolutely. Soy is another really good one. Full absorption there, whether it's an isolate or a concentrate. So with soy, that's kind of the exception to the rule. Whey's the isolate only, no concentrate, no blends. Whereas soy, you can do either the isolate or the concentrates.
I think one of the last things is someone had some questions about some vitamins, Christine.
Oh, yes. Let's see. Someone asked about the B12. What do we recommend as far as better absorption rates on those particular vitamins? Sublingual B12 is preferred over like a pill form of B12. What that means is that it basically you put it right underneath your tongue and it dissolves. So if you're having issues with your B12 levels and keeping them up, we do recommend a sublingual form of B12. It will say that right on the label versus a pill form. For the vast majority of people, a pill form is absolutely fine. We have not been seeing a lot of deficiencies with B12 by using pills versus the sublingual. But there are a few people out there that do have issues. Some people have chosen to not supplement and go through their primary care physician potions and get monthly injections through of B12, which is okay with us also if that's something that you do choose. Vitamin D was the other question that came through. We definitely do recommend a vitamin D3. You do not want to use a vitamin D2. Vitamin D2, you will not get a good absorption from that, whereas with D3s, those definitely have a better absorption rate. Most of us living in the Midwest are going to have to supplement vitamin D. You are not going to be able to absorb enough through the sun. It's too cloudy. We don't have a clear enough day. There's large portions of your body that needs to be showing, and they need to be open a certain time of the day. So needless to say, in Michigan, it's very, very difficult to get your vitamin D through the sunlight. We're really going to have to supplement it for most of us.
One last question. It looks like someone had bought a bottle of 1,200 milligrams of slow-release calcium. Is that okay? Is there a different way she should go? What do you suggest, Christina?
No, I am okay with that. I know exactly what you're talking about is the 1,200 milligrams of slow-release. Usually I tell people just to take it before bed. I mean, that just honestly works for me the best, but you could take it in the morning. But, yep, absolutely acceptable.
Anything else you guys want to touch on before we wrap up?
No, there was one question, just real quickly, that I'll address. The question was, do many people in their mid-60s or older get surgery, and how do they handle it, and what are their results generally? And just real quick, we have a wide range of ages of patients who have surgery, and there's a good percentage of folks in their 60s, and typically they do very, very well. They really do. I think just like with any of the age groups, the important thing is to recognize the surgery as what it is, and that's a tool. And it's a very, very effective tool. But just like with any other tool, it's how you use it. And our hope is always to support you in using that tool to its most effective abilities to ultimately see that you reach your goals. So my encouragement would be, one, use us as much as you need us. Two, surround yourself with other people who are also engaged in similar journeys. There's a lot of encouragement that can be gathered from that. Support groups here, online support groups, obviously as well. So, but no, we see good results.
Beverly says she's 64 and going strong. Great job, Beverly.
Awesome. And that's what you want to hear. You want to hear from others who have gone ahead. So,
yeah.
It's fantastic.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah,
Thank
have
you.
a great day.
Bye.